All right, so we got an exciting episode today. It's a chasing a cup slash underdog soccer podcast episode. Joined with David Kerr, the U20 guru himself. Last time we were kind of joined together, we did the list. I think what was it like July, August, and he did the U50. Excuse me, not the U50, the top 50 U20 list, and it was one of the best podcasts we've put out. I say, and so we're really excited about the second version right now. We got David over here, we got Marcus over here. Guys, how are we doing today?
We're doing great, guys. Thanks to be here. Glad to do another run through the top 50. I know people have been bugging me and Marcus especially about it, so you all finally get your demands. I'm gonna give it to you.
Excited to be here, man. Thanks for putting this together, and it's fun to get together, and looking forward to diving in the list. Should we get rolling?
Let's jump right in. I'm just going to throw it out there just for everyone listening. David didn't include keepers on this list, but we'll talk about them at the end. So if we went through the first 10 or 15 and you didn't hear any keepers without us saying that, might add some questions in there. But yeah, Marcus, lead us off, man.
Yeah. So David, you want to kind of run people through how'd you come up with this list? How do you compare people, when they see somebody that's super young, like how could you put them on a top 50 list for somebody older? How do you put the list together?
Right now it's about evaluating the four essential pillars of a player's game: your technical ability, your tactical knowledge, your mentality, how are you engaging in the game, you stay locked in, and then the physicality aspect. And then, is a player really good in one and okay in three? Are they really good in three but awful in one? And then kind of looking at, could this player with his current abilities transition to the professional game? Does he have the athletic ability, the mental capacity? Is he potentially ready to move into the Europe game where you have to have both of those, as long as being extremely technical? And then looking at these players and saying, okay, who would I put over who long term into this group? And saying, is this kid not just a better player now, but a better long term prospect? And then looking at who potentially is going to be our best players 5 to 10 years from now for the USA. Looking at it like that.
Awesome. And obviously with COVID, this past year, a lot of European youth not happening, seasons being jacked up. A lot of kids were severely impacted with opportunities to go abroad, opportunities to even play, games not being had. That's gonna impact this list, right?
Yeah, it had a huge impact. So there was a lot of kids who had maybe 4 to 5 games in the last year. That's horrible for your development. All that sitting there, even injury-free, training small-sided, training by yourself, that can only do one thing. But that in-game experience that some of these other guys are doing, that really benefited those other guys, while the guys who sat around, you just lost out on a year of development. And that really hurts. But the only positive thing I can say about that is that it impacts everyone around the world, so it's not just going to hurt the USA. But at the same time, that's unfortunate for a lot of players' careers who are aspiring and in that prospect stage. But yeah, and then so before we dive in, I just think we should note about the goalkeepers and why they weren't included. And its real reason is just because they're so different from field players. You can't compare a goalie to a striker and say who's the bigger of the two, because goalie their saving ability doesn't really compare to the player's technical profiles, things like that. So there we go.
Yeah, let's tag a couple of these guys that were right on the cusp, knocking on the door. I know some fan favorites in that list. You wanna just fire off the list? We've got Jonathan Perez, Leon. Is it Flach? I
believe it's Flock.
I know that's Larry Henry's boy. Nico Pereira. I told you before the pod, that broke my heart. I'm a big Nico fan. I know he was so close.
He almost made it. Yeah. Still a great player.
Absolutely. Joseph Scally, Joshua Atencio, Daniel Leyva, a shocker name for me, Johnny Soccer. I think you're going to have to touch on that one in a second. Matko Mihailovic, another hot name this past year. Ethan Johannes. And speaking of hot, there's Ken and Hot rounding out the list. You want to mention a couple of those guys, call out a couple of those guys?
So the big thing to know about this group is that because you are comparing not just one age group, but 5, if you're still bubbling that top 50, you're going to have a really good professional career still. All of these guys still are going to, at a minimum, do great at a level of MLS or even better. So it's not that they're not good. These guys are excellent players and still in their own age youth national teams would almost be a lock for an 11 or a roster. For some of these guys, like looking at Ken and Hot, right now, I really like Ken and Hot as a player, but there's also some external factors that need to be taken in. Club situation being one of them. So for him right now, he left Red Bull's academy, maybe for the type of player the Red Bulls like to have, the more ground covering, the runners. Kenan didn't really fit that. He's more of a Michael Bradley, Chris Durkin type 6, where he sprays the ball. He's good defensively, but he's not going to cover a ton of ground. A high IQ player. But he's currently in flux. Where he goes and the system he chooses is going to have a lot to do with what his career projects to long term. So there's a couple good options that I like. So we'll see where he lands. Then some of the other ones, like Johnny Soccer. For those who watch the Olympics, and we really got to see our first time, everyone's the big full games. Even if he's played as an 8, which he still has in the Brazilian league. You want to see a center and defensive mid be good at the basics of what a center defensive mid should be good at. And that soccer IQ, is he checking his shoulder and scanning the field off of the ball? How is his body positioning in the half turn? Is he opening up his hips to receive and opening to the field? Is he keeping possession basically? Like even just getting the ball, finding an opponent. He was struggling with those basic things, which is an issue. And the other scary part was that he was in season. He wasn't like a lot of the other guys in the Olympic team who haven't played in 5 months. He just played a game like a week and a half before. So it really wasn't like, you can't really excuse it that much. But he's still a potential player and still promising. I want to see him develop, especially the mental aspect of his game and the tactical. And then a couple of those, Danny Leyva and Joshua Atencio. Those two are good players. Really technical, really high IQ. But there's another Seattle Sounders defensive midfielder to be named that I think is better than both. And is pretty much going to shut out both of them from minutes over the next year or so. And that's why they're not higher up. And then with that, I think, Marcus, you talked about it, Nico Carrera. I love Nico's game. Also, Nico's one of the nicest kids and easiest to root for kids out there. The lack of games he's gotten concerns me, though. That does hurt. He's played like 5 or 6 games at most in the past year. So he really hasn't gotten that chance to develop in game. I'm still super high on him. And he's going to be good enough to get to Holston Kiel's first team. He's a good player, but that lack of games really hurts him. So I'm still rooting for the kid, though. He's going to be really good. And then with guys like Leon Flock and Jonathan Perez, Leon Flock is good, but I want to see more technical skill out of him. He's good enough for the Philly first team, but like a guy who we're going to mention soon could potentially steal all the minutes that Flock is currently getting. And Johnny Perez, it more comes to the physical side. When you're 5'6", $120, you generally struggle a little bit when you're playing against men and get pushed around, things like that. He's still going to have a great MLS career at a minimum. Kid's a wizard on the ball. It's really good. We'll see what happens.
I love that we haven't got to 50 and we're talking about guys playing in Europe, playing in South America, probably headed to Europe. And then, worst case scenario, they're a great Major League Soccer player. It's an exciting time to be a US fan right now.
Yeah, it is. These guys, if we were looking at like the 92s, the 90 or 96s, 91s, will almost all be like top 20, top 10 players.
Yeah.
It's a huge talent difference now.
Yeah, there's no shame in not making top 50 list. This is a talented group.
These guys would all be like first team All-America in college.
Absolutely.
Just phenomenal players. But our talent's getting better.
All right, well, let's get it to 50. Number 50, Jack McGlynn, the Philadelphia Union player I think you were referring to just a second ago, 2003. Going to be stealing some minutes. We've got 49, Cam Harper, a winger, New York Red Bulls, 2001, just came over from Celtic. 48 is Dante Sealy, the winger at FC Dallas, 2003. Julio Benitez, a new one for me. He's at RSL, central midfielder. He's playing for the Monarchs now. He's a 2005, very young but up and coming player. And then a name a lot of people will know, Jose Gallegos, attacking midfielder for San Antonio FC in the USL. He's a 2001, was recently on trial at Bayern Munich for a couple weeks ago. Any highlights from that group, David, that you want to talk about?
So Jack McGlynn is one who would really shoot up the list over the years. He's big, he's strong, and his skill in the ball is pretty solid. He's also has a very good soccer IQ, but his speed a little bit worries me. Can cover a lot of ground, can make that distance going up to higher levels. I think at the end of the year, he could be taking a starting spot from what Liam Flock currently is getting. He covers ground decently well at what he does. In the 2003 age group, he's one of our best center mids, and he's pretty much a lock for that roster when it happens. I'm just looking to see a little more consistent technical ability and a little more ground covering out of him. Because both of those, when he was in the USL, could struggle with it at times, but then there were other times he'd come around and just be amazing. A 10 out of 10 player. I mean, he had one time where he put in a half volley from like 25 yards out into the bottom corner. But he just needs to bring up that consistency. And now, so from there, moving to Cam Harper. So personally, a year ago, I was hoping Cam Harper would have pulled Tim Weah and broken into the Celtic first team. He's still lightning quick, and he's still good in the ball. His actual physical muscle strength could be a little bit better. Now I want to see how he handles MLS. But I still have hope for him. But he needs to be breaking and getting minutes. So
it's gonna be fun to watch him with Clark and Amaya. We were talking before the show.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a fun little group to see.
It is. From a youth national team perspective, Red Bulls is back on the map from that.
Yeah.
So, and speaking of another youth national team, but one that's been really disappointing so far this season, Dante Sealy from FC Dallas. So Dante ceiling-wise is one of the highest in this list. For the 2003 wingers, if he's on his game, he's the best of them all. That includes Cade Cowell. That potentially includes Caden Clark. Caden's played on the wing. That includes Kevin Paredes. But we don't see that Dante often. He has moments where he switches off, things like that. Like in late 2019, he went to the Nike friendlies and was by far our best player, including Moses Nine, including Jonathan Gomez, all of that. The offense ran through him. Went to the DA showcase. First game, scores 4 goals. Next game is invisible. Like, it's just been a story of his career so far. When you're that inconsistent, that becomes an issue. I do expect him to get Dallas minutes this year, but we need to see a 100% locked in Dante every single game. So I'm hoping he can bring it, but we shall see. And then the next up is a really promising prospect and someone from the quote-unquote homegrown factory of Real Salt Lake, Julio Benitez. Julio is an attacking midfielder who has a really good left foot, pretty similar to what an Efra was at this age. Not quite Efra ceiling, but sprays the ball over the field with ease. His decision-making, his skill in the ball, his poise, All of those were extremely good. He's a must-have with the 2005 Saudi Youth National Team roster. He's more likely than not going to be the next homegrown for Real Salt Lake too. And he could be the first homegrown in a very long time for RSL to finally break in after the big talent gap that they've had from the 97s to essentially him, where there are a lot of prospects that either left to Europe or they did sign that didn't really do anything. Or you had Noah Beck who went to be a TikToker. Like, he might break that trend. He's a good player. And then finally, the man above him, Jose Gallegos. Jose is a wonderful player offensively. Man is with both feet really good. He creates. He's aggressive. He's getting after it. He's taking players on. He's beating them. He's putting it on net, things like that. The issue is off the ball. He doesn't move too well off the ball when his team is in possession. He doesn't hustle too hard defensively. So a little bit might come down to the coaching and training environment he's been in, because he wasn't in like academies or anything. He played in the high school level. And generally at that time, like, he might have not had that extreme tactician level coaching that I know the San Antonio FC Academy has. But if he went to Europe, a Bayern Munich would fix him instantly, turn him into an amazing player. I don't think he's Bayern Munich good, but it would be good for his career. So we'll see what happens to him. He's still good enough for Europe, just like almost all the guys in this list, which is great to see from a future perspective. So that's 50 to 46.
So moving on to 45. So we got center back from LAFC, Antonio Leone. He's a 2004. Next up, 44, is Sebastian Carbajal. He's a striker from the Earthquake San Jose. He's a 2005. He's one of the players that I had never heard of. And along with number 43, I had to do a little bit of research on as well. Marco Zambrano, another striker from Philly. He's another 2005. Moving into number 42, Federico Fede Oliva from Atletico Madrid. He's a winger as well, plays he's 2004. And then number 41, mentioned earlier, Kevin Paredes, a winger / center mid out of DC United. He's a 2003. So tell us some more about those guys there.
Yeah, so Antonio Leone first up. Love the kid. Really nice kid. Really great personality. Really hard working. Really hard leader. He's good on the ball. When you look for a distribution center back, he's one of those. What I kind of have a potential issue with is his size. So he's currently 6 foot right now, which is good enough to be a center back, big enough.
Mark McKenzie's 6 foot.
Yeah.
But with bringing up Mark McKenzie's a good point. Does Leone have the athleticism McKenzie had? Can he jump 30 inches off the ground? Can he cover ground like McKenzie can? Can he be as two-footed as McKenzie? That's a question that I do have for him. He's currently one of the only youth players that LAFC is putting on their bench. And he's going to be good enough to potentially get minutes this season. And he's good to get to Europe long term. But it's where can he get in Europe only being a 6 foot center back that I have a question of. Because I really like the kid's game. But generally, Europeans, unless you're just an absolute maestro, they like their center backs to be bigger players. And he doesn't quite have the pace to be a fullback. Now, he could end up becoming a 6 potentially.
Yeah, that's what I was about to
But
ask.
I want to see what happens with him. Overall, the kid's still going to have a great career, but it's where can he get to? Can he get to a mid-tier Bundesliga level club, or potentially a lower-tier club in the Liga, in La Liga? Definitely can, but can he get higher than that? That's what I'm wondering. This kid's still going to be just fine. And now a kid who could go really far in his career, Sebastian Carbajal. So when people look to who's going to be our Latino presence on the men's national team, this potentially could be one of them. So I still need to see more of him, especially in regards to games. He's from San Jose Earthquakes, and California and the youth level didn't do anything over the last year. They've been shut down with COVID. They've been one of the most strictest states on it, which is understandable. So he's unfortunately felt the brunt of that. But this kid, I like him better as a winger. He's a striker too. On the ball, he is really just a damn good player. He's silky. He's extremely quick too. So he burns by defenders with ease. He's strong as well. This is one who, in a year or two from now, they'll be talking about him like people talked about Cade Cowell last night. Just amazing talent. Now, he hasn't been in San Jose for that long. He's bounced between his local club and San Jose, as well as Sacramento. Went after him a little bit too. So I wonder what would have happened with him if he would have been in that high environment for long. But this is still, when the 2005s have a camp and he's not on it, I might march to U.S. Soccer and ask why. Just an amazing player. Then from there, we have one of our first tri-nationals on the list, Marcos Zambrano. So Marcos currently plays for the Ecuador youth national teams, and he's currently the starting striker for the 2005s. This was one of the Philadelphia Union people reached out to me in Marcos's first game with them and said, you got to check this kid out. And then I turned on their academy stream, and within 5 minutes, this kid scores 2 bangers. So Marcos is a striker. He's really big and strong. His touch is super clean. He's incredibly poised. He's tactical. He's intelligent. He's grown up in Ecuador too, so he has the level of grit that you generally see from kids from that South American area. That this is my way to make it. I have to earn my spot, or they're going to pull someone else in. He's an incredible player. He could have been higher in this list. I want to see how he works the Philadelphia Union too. Because there's a couple other players that are attackers at Philly, specifically 2006's Bajan Garbo and Gael Medrano, who are going to be competing with him. Both of those two are also insanely good talents. So Philly's doing something right, especially in the recruiting end, because all 3 of those are not from their territory. So we'll see. This kid's fantastic. Bringing us into another kind of the Latin flair, Latin poise, things like that. Fede Oliva from Atletico Madrid. Fede plays a lot like Gio Reyna does. Not quite as athletic, though. He's at Atletico. He's progressing well. I'm not sure if he's Liga or La Liga level, but he's still going to find some place in Europe. Excellent player, crafty on the ball, good size, good speed, everything like that. And then another player kind of similar in Kevin Paredes. So Paredes last season played normally as like a left back / left wing back for DC United, even though his best position is a right winger. So he likes to cut in on that left foot. So what I kind of question with Kevin is that even though he's really athletic, his IQ is good, his touch isn't as clean as I'd like it to be. And even though you can get away with that in MLS, you can't get away with that in Europe. Because if your touch is not clean and you're not blown by players, which he's quick, but he doesn't have breakaway speed, which as a winger can limit him. But he still has that athleticism in MLS. I thought DC might have leaned on the youth a little more, and they've done the exact opposite. But he's still a great talent.
Yeah, we'll see if that changes after transition in leadership this season. So
it's been amazing that Ben Olsen was actually playing youth more.
Yeah,
and he historically did.
Yeah. All right, well, that brings us up to number 40, Santiago Munoz. This one was a new one for me, striker at Santos Lugano. He's a 2002. We've got 39, Cole Bassett, center midfielder for the Rapids. He's a 2001. Natty Clark, big drop for him from our last list, and I'm sure you'll touch on that. Center back for Sporting KC is a 2005. Matt Hope, which probably won't surprise too many people on this list. I know, his hat trick at Schalke to start this year. People were saying, maybe number one, maybe number two on the U.S. striker senior team list after a couple big games from him. So look forward to you touching on him. And then rounding it out with Mauricio Cuevas, right back at, he's playing at LA Galaxy 2 right now. He's a 2003. You want to walk us through that group?
Yep. So first one up, Santiago Munoz. So he's a pretty good player. He's pretty tall. I believe he's around 6 foot. He has a good frame to him. And he's playing in Liga MX. He's starting to score some goal and find his fire there. So I would have him higher, except players in Liga MX either go to MLS or stay in that league for a long time. I don't like to see that from a future perspective of this kid. I mean, if he was in an American academy, still potentially at FC Dallas, where I believe he originally started out of, I'd be much higher on him. He started for the Mexico U17 team that made it to the U17 World Cup final and beat USA in the CONCACAF championships for qualifying. He was the one who actually scored the goal against USA to win the game. Still a really good player. But it's his club situation that keeps me from going higher. Specifically, Mexico does not participate in the global market like America does. A lot of these other kids are getting more Europe looks than he does, solely because the league keeps in. It's an unfortunate reality, but it is a reality. So, moving up to a kid who is getting Europe looks in Cole Bassett. So, Cole is big, fast, and strong. He gets in good positions in the box. He does very well to get himself on the score sheet or make some type of effect on the actual scoreline in the game. He's not as technical as I'd like to see. His touch is a little bit loose, a little bit shaky at times. In tight spaces, he's not as good as I'd like. That's also why I generally think Tanner Tessman's constantly chosen over him. And that's why Cole Bassett, despite being in numerous USA camps, still hasn't made the matchday squad or made his debut. So he's a good player, but he doesn't have that technical proficiency I want to see out of our big prospects to be higher in this group compared to pretty much all the kids above him who all do. Because now from him and up, the lines are getting pretty thin. All of these kids are excellent players, Europe quality. And even himself in the Bundesliga, because of his physical profile and his IQ, he can still make that level. I mean, people see Werder Bremen, who questionably plays soccer. People look at Schalke, who can barely string 5 passes together. He can break into teams like that, but can he get to a level higher than that? I'm not too sure. But still fine for a career. And next to him is a player who a year ago I was pretty much selling the house on, and Natty Clark. So Natty is physically the kid's gifted. If he played football, Nick Saban would probably be at his house recruiting into Alabama. He's extremely quick. He's extremely strong. At the academy levels, he's so athletic that he can over-rely on it and overcompensate for the soccer IQ, which, putting it lightly, is a work in progress. What worries me about Natty is that, well, I thought this is a right back who should be playing for Sporting Kansas City 2 or even their U19s. He's still at the U17 level. That makes me wonder, like, why? This is a kid physically who's dominant there. Why are you not moving him up higher? They said in their kind of that Sporting KC documentary that they would be moving him up, but they haven't yet. And I'm questionable on that. This is an extremely high ceiling player, potentially the highest ceiling they have in their academy. Maybe Edgar Bazan, who's no 6, is higher, but we need to see it. He's at least doing better than Gage Akalu is, who unfortunately hasn't gotten much minutes at the academy level, which has been an even bigger concern, but I still want to see more out of that, I want to know why he's not getting so much minutes. But I'm still high on him long term. He's still an incredibly high ceiling prospect in particular. And then moving on to someone who's more low floor but high ceiling, or higher floor, low ceiling. Sorry about that. Matthew Hoppy or Pope, one of the two. So everyone looked at him and saw his hat trick for Schalke. And then the next game he scored. And then the game after that he scored. What has he done since? Is he a consistency or is he a one-hit wonder? Because USA's had a lot of one-hit wonders. And he's also riding and sticking with Schalke into the Bundesliga too, which from a development perspective is going to be really good for him and why he's at this spot in the list. Because if he would have went to another Bundesliga club, I would have put him lower because I don't think he's ready for that level and ready for those minutes yet. His IQ is good and his run making is okay. His technical ability, I have questions about. How tight can he keep the ball to his body? Can he affect in build-up play, which he really struggles with right now? He does great, like a Giassi Zardes of he has a good attacking midfielder. He's going to make good runs and put himself in good positions. But as a striker, that's not the only part of the game. Can he contribute in the build-up? Can he be good interplay? Can he be a good target man to find? Those parts I have wonders about his game with. Being in the Bundesliga 2 where you get a lot more space, where it's, we'll put it, MLS level, he could do really well there. And then someone who I'm extremely high on, but I would have put him further up if I knew where in Europe he was going to, and that's Mauricio Cuevas. So Mauricio came into LA Galaxy, first team preseason, and killed it. Pounds up the sidelines, glides up it with ease. His speed is great. His technical ability is great. He's one of the best crossers in the entire youth pool. His defending could use work, but when you look for an attacking fullback, this is the best one, the 2003 age group. No 04s are going to jump him. I thought maybe Matty Clark would jump him, but doesn't look so. He is a lock for the 2003, the next U20 cycle. Amazing player, but where is he going to go in presumably Germany? Is he going to go to a club that actually likes using talent, or is he going to rot in a second team for a few years? That has a big question. In the actual LA Galaxy first team, he can't make it because Julian Araujo's there. You're not playing over Julian. So he probably has to leave for Europe. So kind of we'll call it a question mark. And that's 40 to 36.
All right, 35 is Brandon Craig is a center back from 2004 out of Philadelphia Union. Then we got number 34, Kobe Hernandez Foster. He's a left back, Wolfsburg. It's a 2001. 33 is Evan Rotundo, is a 2004 attacking mid, and he's at Schalke. Next up, 32, we got the Booth brothers. Zach Booth is a center mid out of Leicester in 2004. And then number 31 is Taylor Booth, defensive mid. He's on loan at St. Polten. Is that how you say that one?
I believe so.
He's a 2001 as well. So, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so beginning with one of my favorite players in the entire list, Brandon Craig. So Brandon's a center back currently at Philadelphia Union. He might be long-term a better center back than Mark McKenzie.
Wow.
But the kid is tall. He might be 6'4" right now. And like most 16 to 17-year-olds at that age, the kid is a stick figure. Skinny as hell. Like, he's actively drinking protein shakes, drinking his milk every night, having his sandwiches, trying to bulk up. Like, he needs to do that bad. In regards to his ability on the ball, and he's better than the current two Philadelphia center backs. His distribution is one of the best out of any center back in the list. Like, he can find a player from 40 yards away and put it on his foot, no problem, with his right or his left foot. Not many other players as a center back or even as a 6 or 8 can do that.
Yeah, he played some six last season, if I remember right.
Yeah, he did.
Is he a center back for you? That's what I was thinking.
He's a center back for me. Because of his pace, I don't think he can play defensive mid. Because he is so tall and grew so quick, he's not the fastest kid, but he's still fast enough to be a center back. But like even as a 6, his IQ, his skill, he dominated at the USL level as a 16-year-old, which is crazy. He was actually captaining their USL team at 15.
That's wild.
And that's captaining players against grown men. And there were players in that Philly team that were like 2000s, 99s, 2001s, 4 to 5 years older than this kid. And they chose him to be the leader and their captain. That's a big deal. Because that means he not only leads the locker room, I'm assuming he's the first kid on the field to practice, the last one out, and the hardest worker. You want that in your player long term. So if Brandon can stay healthy and if he can bulk up, he's going to go wherever the hell he wants in Europe. And keep in mind, he has an English passport.
Yeah.
He's trained with Liverpool before, and he did really well there. So this kid is on the Europe radar. In his youth national team games he played, he was, in my opinion, the best defender. Him and Antonio Leone were head and shoulders above everyone else. So it's, can he get the physical side down? That's what I'm wondering. If he can, sky high. And the next one is a player who struggles with the physical side, Kobe Hernandez Foster. So Kobe came to Wolfsburg as a left back. Played maybe one game there, and Wolfsburg said, we're not sure you have the pace to be a left back. Time to move you to defensive mid. Not a big fan of that. Kobe is pretty one-footed with his left foot, and keep in mind, his left foot's amazing. One of the best left feet. For some reason, we keep getting left feet distributing and shot-putting banger potential players in our pool, and he's one of those. But can he physically hang in Germany? Is he fast enough? Is he going to be strong enough? Because he's 5'6" to 5'8", and German players are big, fast, and strong. Can he hang at those levels? I thought he would have been moved up to Wolfsburg too very quickly, and he wasn't, which was a little bit of concern. Because at left back, he was doing great. His IQ is so good for the USA teams, he was immediately placed in the starting 11 as a center back. But we'll see. Kobe's starting to fall mostly because of club situation, not because of Kobe as a player, though. Still extremely high in his ability, and even as a 6, he could be that answer to who in our pool is going to become Tyler Adams' backup, which is a huge question because
that was one of my questions coming up later.
Yeah. I mean, Jackson Newell's currently the guy, and he's as good as he's going to get. So we need someone to surpass him and actually handle World Cup level. Kobe can be that player. He has it in him. But will Wolfsburg do well by him? We have another player we're going to mention who will put it has struggled at Wolfsburg.
Yeah.
And then above him, another German kid, another Schalke player, Evan Rotunda. So Evan is his IQ, his skill, his two-footed ability, amazing. His change of pace in the ball, great. This is one of the most technically and tactically proficient players that we have and that we've produced in a very, very long time. The issue with Evan is physical. He's not very big, he's not very strong, and he's not very fast. Again, in Germany, that's a little bit of an issue because Germany is starting to turn from those technical maestros, those players, into getting the ground coverers, the athletes, the people like that. He's still very good technically, but this man can run for days. You're starting to see more of that in those lower Bundesliga level teams. Evan is your killer. He's your IQ player. So with him, and he's been answering this specific question in his youth games, is your creativity and is your production good enough to outweigh the fact that athletically you're just pretty much a zero there? And so far, he's been doing it. Kid in the U17 is lighting it up. He's gifted. There's no other way to put it. But can he handle the physicality and the way the German game is changing too? Personally, I think he can, and I think Schalke getting relegated and being in financial peril is great for him because he's going to get minutes next year. And
the first team.
He's going to get first team minutes.
Wow.
And we don't have many players with his specific technical and tactical gifts in the pool, even in the men's team, even in the younger age groups. So now it's a question of mainly, can he bulk up? If he can handle physically and his strength the men's level, this kid's not just going to be a pro, he's going to be in the men's national team. If we go back and running dual 8s using a 10, he's going to be competing with the Caden Clarks or Gio Reynas type players. So we'll see what happens. Just great talent. Kid like Brandon Craig needs to start bulking up. So now moving on to two players who I can't quite differentiate between the two. So I just put the older one first. Taylor Booth and Zach Booth. So Zach Booth is a center midfielder. He's an 8. And both of the Booth brothers are not athletes, but they're soccer athletic. They have a quick burst of pace. They can change directions very well, extremely agile. They're not very strong in actual physical muscle-wise, and they're not very tall. They're both pretty short, both of them like 5'8". So Zach Booth is currently at Leicester City, immediately comes to Leicester, and then they stop playing with their 2004s and say, you're going to play with our 2002s. So when Shituro Ndunze was playing as a goalkeeper for the U18s, Zach Booth was out there at the same time. So when you play up in a foreign academy, it's a huge vouch of talent. And I had Zach Booth lower than a couple other 04s for a while, but there was a MLS Academy director who worked for one of the youth national teams who I talked with who said, this kid, if he can stay injury-free, is big time. And generally when you have soccer brains like that tell you this, you have to listen to it.
He's the highest 04 on this list, right?
He's the second highest.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yep.
Committed 04.
Yep. Yeah, we'll say highest actual American 04. If the 2004s didn't get their cycle canceled, he would have been at the U17 World Cup and would have been a huge revelation there. Great player. And then Taylor Booth is more of a defensive midfielder. So the difference between Taylor and Zach is their ability to distribute. Taylor can ping balls around the field. And to steal a quote from Matt Hartman, who stole a quote from one of the Bayern Munich coaches, he picks the correct pass. And in German world, that basically means your IQ is extremely high and you're a very good player. Because Germany is very critical and they're very analytical for how they say that. So to get comments over there is an extremely good vouch of talent. So Taylor's currently on loan from Bayern to St. Pölten, or Polten, however you say it. And as expected, he's our best American there right now. He's we don't have many Americans in that league, but I'll put him in our top 3. He's killing it every single game. He's playing at the level. If Taylor Booth was at RSL and didn't leave, same with his younger brother, he'd be an every game starter. Probably would have retired Kyle Beckman a little bit sooner. Just both of them are great talents, but when you look to where can they get, they're very athletic for a soccer game, but if they go to teams that prioritize just overall athleticism, can they beat them out? I think they can. I'm just wondering, they're going to have to be in the right system to fit their game. So it'll all come down to that. I don't think either of them at their current parent clubs, Leicester or Bayern, are going to make it there. They can make it at clubs a little bit low.
No shame in that.
Yeah, no shame in that at all. They're both excellent.
All right, I think we're up to 30 to 26, so we're reaching the halfway point with this group. Number 30, Diego Lopez. He's a winger, unattached. I think he came through Atlanta.
Nope. Philadelphia Union Philadelphia Union's defensive midfielder.
Okay.
Two. There's a couple Diego Lopez's out there, so this one
Okay.
might have actually confused. Sorry about that.
What year is he?
He's a 2005.
Oh, he's
So
okay. Yeah.
yeah, we can just tackle these guys one by one at this point.
Yeah.
Honestly. So Diego Lopez currently was a San Diego Surf player, just like Evan Rotundo originally. He moved to Real Salt Lake, and Philly does what they do best and poach talent around the country. And Diego Lopez is one of the best sixes we have among all of our age groups in the defensive mid pool. He is press resistant. You're not getting the ball from this kid. Even at 15 years old, playing his first time with Union 2, no one could get the ball off of him. Like, he's just impossible for it. He's light years ahead IQ-wise his peers. For the 2005 age group, there is one defensive mid above him, but that's just because that kid is also extremely gifted. Diego Lopez, originally Mexico wants him potentially even more than America does. He's been called into constant Mexico camps, constantly in the USA camps. He was going to be potentially involved in the 2004 youth cycle for USA because he's so good. This is one of Philadelphia Union's next homegrowns and one of their highest ceiling ones they have. And that's a big deal because their academy is starting to overtake Dallas in terms of production.
They're pumping kids out. It's wild.
Yeah, he's the second highest on here from that group, I believe. So big talent vouch from him.
29's a name a lot of people are going to know, Efrain Alvarez.
Yep.
Yeah, tell us about him.
So everything we said about Evan Rotundo, apply it to Efra. Technically, there's not a player who has the technical ability Efrain Alvarez's left foot has. Since 9 years old, he's been able to put a ball wherever he wants it from 40 yards out. Efra came into the USL just after turning 15, youngest ever debutant in that league, and was scoring hat tricks and goals I still can't believe a kid that age was scoring. Now, his issue is athleticism. He's not fast and he's not very strong, which LA Galaxy likes it when you are both of those. So he hasn't quite broken in to the Galaxy and made that impact like we were expecting. 3 years ago, this kid probably would have been the number one over Gio Reyna. Number two, maybe. He was that good. But as you get older and you need to have the four pillars, you need to have that tactical, mental, and especially athletic. And you can't cover ground like that so bad that they move you out of being a 10 into the wing. That's not good. So he's an extremely high ceiling, arguably the highest potentially that a lot of us have, but he's also a low floor. In a league like Liga MX, MX user, however you want to say it, he would kill it in those leagues. He would be an every game player, making highlight videos constantly, and pretty much guaranteeing a spot in Mexico's national team. Now, I want him for USA just because of his potential. But will he get the athletic area of it down? He has to get faster specifically. Because if he can cover that ground, he can be a contributor defensively. He can beat out his mark on offense. We don't have another effort. They don't grow on trees. There's nothing like it, but when you can get marked out of the game easily, it doesn't matter your skill. So that's his issue.
What do you think the chances are that he commits to USA over Mexico? Seemed like he was leaning the other way more recently.
USA fans won't like this. Personally, if I'm Efra, I'm going to Mexico. Because in USA, number 10s, you have your Gio Reynas, you have your Caden Clarks, Rotundos, Santiago. You have other kids in their younger ranks, Leo Benitez. You have a couple even younger than those. Mexico, he's one of their biggest 10 prospects among all age groups. Like, this kid would start for their U20 team most likely. He potentially was almost on a spot for their U23s. He's been in their men's national team already. Like, if I'm Ephra, I'm taking the safe route. Now, USA is going to be significantly better than Mexico post 2022. But because they're going to be so much better, spots aren't going to be a lot easier to come by. Ephra at an MLS or Liga MX level, he could earn his way onto that Mexico roster and bang in goals against us every single game. But could he start for us, like at the 10? If we play Gio Reyna there, Ephra's not seeing the field. Unless Gio's unless like,
and Musa could even potentially come inside. You know, there's a lot of talent in that inner circle.
There is. It's unfortunate for Ephra. It's great for America.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's just Mexico doesn't have the talent over. I mean, most of the best Mexico prospects are literally from America.
Yeah.
Like their best 03 is arguably Jonathan Perez, who is spot number 51 in this list.
Yeah.
Like if that's their other best 2003s are Jonathan Gomez and Ricardo Pepi. Also prefer to play for America. You could count Cade Cowell in that too, who's up next.
There you go, number 28, Cade Cowell, winger for San Jose. Him that had a great night last night. He had a goal and an assist.
Yeah.
He's an 03. And a guy named Chris Wondolowski called us out on this this list last time.
Yeah.
We missed out on Cade Cowell. So I guess his Wando's playing career is coming down. Maybe his scouting and front office career might be taking off. So tell us a little bit more about Cade.
Yeah. Cade Cowell barely missed it last time. Yeah. And I mean, if you've seen pictures of the kid or you've watched the videos and you're like, this is built like a 25-year-old. And he's been the same size as he is now since he was 15, which is ridiculous. Just kid drank protein shakes since day one, apparently, and was like living in the gym. So physically, he has it. He's fast. He's strong. No defender can stop the kid because of that. At MLS level, he gets away with pretty much whatever he wants. Why he didn't make it for me in the last list comes down to the technical. So he's good on the ball, but he's just good. He's not consistent enough. You saw in his goal he scored last night, that showed a flash of what he can be. But more often than not, if he's getting that ball under pressure, it's not too hard to get it off of him because of it. He needs to refine his touch and he needs to be better in tight spaces specifically. If he can do that, he's going to go to whatever European league he wants and light it up. He's going to go to the men's national team and probably be our wingers, our final right winger we've been searching for eons for, and again, light it up. But that first touch, those dribbling in tight spaces, that's what he has to work on. It's not been his game so much. A scout that I know and talk to every day who's seen him as a little kid, he was that skillful player growing up. And then he realized, wait, I'm bigger and stronger and faster than everyone. And lost it a little bit. He pretty much just dribbled circles around kids and just pinged it long, ran up to it, and scored 5 goals a game pretty much. So now he's coming back to, because he over-relied on his athleticism, his touch regressed. Now he needs to get that back. He can do it, and if he does, Bundesliga is going to love the kid. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right. Well, that brings us to 27. This was a new one for me. Felipe Valencia. He's a winger.
Yeah. So
Miami, 2005.
Flip everything we talked about Cade Cowell with and completely reverse it. Felipe is probably the most skilled winger on this list. Just oozes technical ability. He played in USL League One last year for Fort Lauderdale and was noticeably their most technical player on that field. Just another kid who just loves getting on the ball, can beat you left, beat you right, dribble through you. That's wonderful. Felipe is pretty quick as well. His speed isn't bad. It's not like a Sebastian Carvajal level speed for a winger or a Cade Cowell, but it's good enough to beat men. So the issue is Felipe is tiny. He's maybe 5'7", 5'8", and he's skinny. So again, If he can show he can not just get bodied off the ball every single time by a fullback, kid's going places. I mean, there's a reason that Inter Miami signed the kid at 15 years old. Like, he was their first ever homegrown. It's a huge talent vouch. He's one of Miami has 3 academy players in particular that I really rate. The other 2 being Miles Perkovich and most notably Axel Perez, who's would probably be a top 3 player in this list. But to be with those 2 is a big talent vouch, and he's one of the best kids that Miami, a huge soccer area, has produced. So it's good to see that area finally get some talent out of there into the pro level after years of ignoring what Weston FC has been doing.
Yeah,
so,
you got another 2005 here, Brooklyn Reigns at the Barca Academy AZ, where Caden Clark came out of, and some other superb talent has come from. Tell us.
So I should give a little preview to Barca AZ to give a shout out to Mia Klein. He was a great guy, great resource, just great person to talk soccer with. So Barca AZ's produced Bryce Duke. They've produced Caden Clark, Julian Araujo, Matthew Hoppy, Jake LaCava, New York Red Bulls 2 player. They're producing them. They're getting it done. So, yeah, Brooklyn is just, he's the next one up. And personally, I think he's the best of that bunch long term. Now, it's like a little bit of a question of physical ability. He's another one just like Caden. Actually, no, not the best of the one, just Caden Clark. Sorry about that. But he's another one that FC Barcelona wants. If he turns 18 and he stays at Barca AZ, he's probably going to La Masia when he turns 18. Another one of those kids who can hang at that level. Now, is he Barcelona first team level, especially as a center mid and defensive mid, that's questionable. But as a defensive mid, he's one of the best kids that has the ability to affect the offense, to drive forward with the ball, burn players, and create chances as a 6. He doesn't lose the ball as a 6 either, just like Darlington Nagby. Defensively, he's okay. He's not the biggest kid. He was generally on the field the littlest kid out there. He's starting to hit his growth spurt. He's an amazing talent. So we'll see what happens. This is another kid that might take that Caden Clark route. Personally, I think he should have going and getting USL minutes. And if an MLS team wants to sign him and ship him off to Europe, I wouldn't complain. Just another defensive midfield prospect in that 2005 age group that's just big time. Just another one who could really push Tyler Adams to be at the best of his game because the spot's no longer safe. And then moving from there, now we get to our top 25. So the margins between these players are not big.
Yeah.
All of these guys are, if they don't go to Europe, it's because they have a huge injury. Like, it would be disappointing in their careers if they're not in Europe. It's that, and not just not in Europe, not in the top 5 league in Europe type, and not even like potentially sniffing USMNT. So
let's start off with number 25, Paxton Aronson, attacking Philadelphia Union 2003.
So for everyone who heard the last name, their ears perked up. That's because he's Brendan Aronson's younger brother. So there's been a debate for the past couple of years among the people who track the DN youth people of who's better between Brendan and Paxton. Personally, I think it's Brendan, but they're a bit of different players. Brendan buzzes around the field more. He gets more of an impact on the game because he's more active. But Paxton's a killer. The kid is on the ball extremely good. Potentially better in his technical ability than Brendan. His IQ on the ball is also better than Brendan's is. But he doesn't cover ground like his younger brother does. And that does matter a little bit when you aren't a big player. But Paxson in a year is going to break into the Phil Union first team. He's going to bench Anthony Fontana. He's a better prospect and honestly a better player. Like in his preseason game, he dribbled through 4 players in Orlando City and put it in the back of the net. That was Orlando City's starters, by the way, that he did that to. That's a good team. So Paxson's another one that's just extremely talented. The thing that I'm wondering is he going to have the same ability that Brendan Aronson does of, for some reason, he just keeps unlocking tools and his skill set that you didn't think he'd have. Like Brendan, we didn't think was going to be that big of a killer on the ball. Now he's finding final balls and the box is putting it away. Didn't think Brendan was going to be able to serve in crosses from out wide that well and play as a winger. Now he prefers to be a winger and he's killing people out wide. Paxson can do that. He'll not just jump up this list. The kid will probably make the USA team for the full team. Just another gifted player. If Caden Clark wasn't so good, Paxson would be the best 10 we've had in the youth national team for a while. So, next up.
Oh, number 24, George Bello, Atlanta United. He's a 2002. He's a left back, but has he not been? He's been playing other positions lately and last year, correct?
Kinda. George Bello plays everywhere. Like in the Atlanta United game last night, I saw him as a striker. I saw him play as a 6. I mean, he can play everywhere. George Bello is just, this is what happens when athletes play soccer. The kid's really fast. He's strong. Now, he's not like 4'2", 40 fast, but still athletically very good. He's a little bit like Anthony Robinson. If you put him in a wing-back position, he's going to be one of your best players that day. He glides up and down the touchline. His ability to swing across in has been ever increasing and getting better. Offensively, he's one of the best fullbacks in our pool, even in the men's team. That's why people have been arguing between him and Sam Vines of who's going to back up Anthony Robinson, even though he just turned 19. The question with Bello is that his focus in the game, his mental. Bello switches off. And you can kind of get away with an MLS level. He doesn't and gets burned a ton. But, he's good. He gets that, but you just can't lose your focus the way he does. He's almost a guarantee for 2 to 3 times a game if he's going to let his runner not just get behind him, but create a chance because he was so out of position. So he has to work on that. If he does, he's probably going to beat out Anthony Robinson for a second job in the left back role. But that's a huge red flag in this game. He's still super high ceiling, but that limits his floor.
Number 23, Brian Kao, center midfielder, another third player, and he's a 2002.
Yeah, someone you both are familiar with because you've interviewed him. Center midfielder, pretty much like a prototype of Weston McKennie and Yunus Musa at this point. Drives forward with the ball, extremely athletic. More athletic than Weston and Yunus, honestly. But his skill in the ball is a little lacking from what I'd like it to be. But he's so athletic, and his ability to just drive past players with the ball makes up for it. In tight spaces, he's not quite there. But the kid he's built for the Bundesliga, man. That's why Wolfsburg moved in their second team right away as a starter. He's unfair for the U19 level that Kobe's at. The DA, he was unfair. It was, pardon my French, it was bullshit that he didn't start for the USA team in the U17 World Cup. We didn't have an 8 at his level, and when our issue was we didn't have a ground covering center midfield, that's him. He covers ground, keeps possession, burns past players easily. He came in the third game, pretty much created a chance for himself right away. Where was that the other 2 games of that World Cup? We didn't have that. So now with Kaio, it's when players are on his back, when he's in tight spaces, can he keep the ball? And can he a little bit improve his decision making and Not every time just want to carry it up the field, but learn the right times to release that pass. But outside of that, I mean, kid's an excellent center mid. He's going to break into the Bundesliga. He's going to do just fine. His USMNT ceiling, however, I mean, if we play with 1-8, he's stuck behind Weston and Munoz. That sucks for him.
Yeah.
Well, that does. You're not beating those two guys out ever. Good news is that if one of them gets hurt, he'll probably be the next man up. Well, potentially there's a couple other eights who might be. Like, yeah, he's going to go places. And so a player who I'll put him in the hot seat for now, and that's Nowasawi. So
where do you see him as well? Like so do you see him as a center back or a 6, and hasn't he played 8 lately as well?
Times, yeah.
I don't totally know, because he doesn't have the soccer IQ for a center back. And his defensive, the way he tries when he goes in to commit the challenges as a center back is not good. But I don't think he's technical enough to play as a 6 or an 8 at a Premier League level. And now we're getting into the level where, like, these guys above him are all talents to make the Premier League someday. So like he has to be like that. But he's just, I mean, athletically, there's not a better athlete in this list. The kid is fast. The kid is strong. He's like 6'3" already. So it's a question of, can he just be better on the ball and better in his IQ? Now, keep in mind, he didn't start playing soccer until he was 14 years old.
Wow.
And then, yeah, doesn't that just make you sick? Guys like us,
yeah.
We played from 3 years and up, and this kid's just like, I might just try this out, and goes pro in the Premier League.
This before?
Just absurd. He would be a player that would probably, I'd want him to play football, actually, if he was in America. Just made for that game. But he has to improve his IQ. He has to be cleaner on the ball. His touches are not good. Like, you can watch highlight videos of him, and even in his highlights, he's missing basic passes. And then he's making it up by getting the ball back and making a good pass. But there's just some things where you're like, come on, man. Like, you got to be better than that. So if he can, he's going to be in the Premier League as a 6 or as a center back, but he has to do that. And now there's someone as a 6 who I think he's bound for that level. And when I mentioned Daniel Leyva and Joshua Atencio earlier and said there's someone who's going to bench both of them, that is Reed Baker-Whiting. So Reed is another defensive midfielder. He's pretty much built exactly like Michael Bradley is. Tall, pretty thick and strong. He's quicker than what a lot of our other 6s are, which is why I have him so high. So generally when you have guys like this, Chris Durkin and Johnny Soccer come to mind. They're slow. They can't move around the field. They can ping the ball wherever they want, but like, you can't cover ground. Defensively, you're kind of a liability because of it, although Durkin's gotten better on that. Reed, on the other hand, can motor around the field. He can move around. He can make plays. His distribution's good. His IQ is really good. So if it wasn't a question of, is Seattle finally going to let a kid break through consistently, I would have him higher. Compared to a floor and ceiling, he blows Danny Leyva and Joshua Atencio away. And it's not close. Like, he was playing with Joshua Atencio in midfield a year ago for Tacoma Defiance and looking just as good. So this kid's going to get signed by Seattle hopefully this year, and he's going to break into the MLS. He's fantastic. He might start at the 6 for the youth national team cycle. If he doesn't, it's because you also have Brooklyn Reigns and Diego Lopez there too. That age group is stacking up on these 3. And that's 3 extremely high levels. The only better age group in that position is the 2006s, who have, in my mind, the best non-Gio Reyna prospect, and then a couple other really good players too. So
that brings us up to number 20. We're cracking the top 20. A name U.S. fans will definitely know, Julian Araujo. He's a 2001 at the Galaxy. He's a right back, which is a loaded position, but he is extremely talented. And what else do you want to tell us about?
Yeah. So Julian is a rock solid defender. Gritty in the tackle. He even kind of give himself more space to go in the tackles harder, which is impressive. He can play center back. He can play 6. Galaxy tried to improve his offensive ability playing him at winger. And that specific reason is why he's not going to be hired. 1, because Galaxy's track record with youth players is suspect. And 2, he's not a crack in the offense. And it's just not his game. The issue with that is the game's transitioning to those OG Brazilian type fullbacks. Your attackers, your guys who get up the sideline, create an offense, and it's basically a new winger. Araujo's not that. He just isn't. People talk about him like he is. Just stop it. He's not. He's a hard-nosed, lockdown right back. He's not going to benefit you going forward. That does limit his ceiling. He's too good. He's too good of a prospect to stay in MLS.
Does that put him with the national team and kind of like contention with like a Reggie Cannon to kind of be that more defensive-minded, right?
Yeah, he's pretty
something different.
Yeah, he's pretty much like the Reggie Cannon regen, except he's a lot more promising than Reggie is.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like Julian's been one where you saw him at the youth level, like this kid's going places.
Yeah.
Reggie, I liked him a lot. My first time seeing Reggie was at a DA playoffs, and he didn't blow me like Julian did. Blow me away like Julian did. Sorry about that. So.
All right. 19, Aiden Morris, Columbus Crew. He's an 01, central midfielder. The name's familiar to some from this past year. If you want to tell us about him.
Yep. So the next up in our 6 pool, and if it wasn't for what happened last week of him tearing his ACL, he'd be our highest 6 on here, and I'm still bummed by that. I mean, he can distribute it well. He gets around the field incredibly well. His IQ is super high. He's strong. He has good size. He's good in the air. He's good in attack. This is the kid. This is the guy who should be in a year backing up Tyler Adams. It's what he should be doing. I'm so bummed about his injury. There's no other way to put it. It's just sad. Like, I hope he can come back. And if he comes back at 80 to 90% of what he was supposed or what he's supposed to be, he's still our best 6 prospect. He just is. Like, I had questions.
Talk about him more next year when he bounces back.
Yeah. I had questions about his ability to be the total package when he was at Indiana and as a Crew Academy player. Because I watched him quite a bit as a prospect growing up. And kind of like Brendan Aronson, he just kept adding on to his game. There was things you're like, I didn't think he'd distribute like this. Now he does. I didn't think he'd be a note or a just bull shark defender. And now he is. Like, he's just, the kid is so talented. He would have been in the top 10 if he didn't tear his ACL. So he's lower for that. Just gutting for the kid.
All right, we'll move into 18. It's Justin Che. Is that how you say his last name? I know
that is,
but I've not heard it.
Yeah.
He's at
Justin Che.
Another Dallas product, I think, 2003. And what do you want to tell us about Justin?
Yeah, so Justin Che, pretty much the Chris Richards 2.0 kid. Now, he's not as tall as Richards. He's stronger. And he's more versatile because he can play right back as well and a little bit quicker. But he's another really good defender. He's good in the ball. The biggest thing about Justin is that he's progressing at Bayern even quicker than Chris Richards did. Wow. He got into the FC Bayern 2 team an entire year and a half ahead of what Chris Richards did. Like, Chris Richards played U19 for quite a bit. Justin Che pretty much walked into Bayern. They're like, you're on the second team, kid. And it was Martin D. Michaelis, an Argentine and Bayern Munich legend, who said all of this. And he was the one who called Bayern, who called FC Dallas and said, we're taking him on loan.
Is there any chance that he makes it to German's first team? Because wasn't he the one saying that he wants to give?
Yeah. So if Germany calls him, he's going to accept it.
Sure.
It's not an if, it's he's going to. And realistically, for the youth teams, he's good enough. We have players who haven't made our youth national teams who make the German youth national teams, like Maxi Dietz, who was a 6 for our 2002s. Barely got minutes on our C or on our B team for that age group. Pretty consistently called in the Germany's youth national teams. Noah Jones, again, same story. Barely makes the B team for our 2002s. Not a good striker pool. Making the German youth national teams. So I hope no one from the German Federation is listening to this, but he's good enough for those teams. And he's good enough to be called in. I hope it doesn't happen. Now, is he Germany senior team good? No. If you're making that German senior national team and starting on it, you're a top 5 to 10 center back in the world.
Right.
Like,
How about 17, Tanner Tessman? You think he's got Bundesliga potential?
yeah, Tanner does. Solely off. Yeah, solely off athletic ability. Yeah. I mean, if you're such a good athlete that Davos when he was like, this kid's athletic enough for Clemson, like, that's a big deal. So Tanner is big, fast, and strong. He doesn't use his body like he should, and he's learning to. Once he does, he's going to be an amazing player. So he currently plays as a center mid. He could be a defensive mid long term, could be a center back. Whichever one he chooses of the 3 positions, he's going to be a Europe level player for. So his passing is good. He's clean on the ball, dribbling with it. I mean, people saw in the Olympics, the kid got in the game against Honduras, and people were like, where was this the entire game? Finally created chances dribbling through players, and he's just a massive kid. You're like, he should be able to move around like that. And he does. In the DA, he was unfair playing. He was actually part of the FC Dallas team who beat the U.S. women's national team, part of that U15 team. That was him and Brian Reynolds and those guys. I can imagine part of the reason was even him at that age was just too athletic and just dominating people, and he's just always been like that. And even against men at FC Dallas, when he gets in, he's still like that. So when his touch increases, he's a little raw on the ball, but he's actively getting better. And once
he's playing soccer, not football, right?
Yeah, I'm so glad about that. This kid could have been whatever sport he wanted to play, he would have played extremely well at. So he'll be off to Europe at some point. He'll do well in the Bundesliga. Where can he get to in that league? I'm not sure. But he's big 5 league bubble.
We're hearing rumors of number 16, Julian, to be passing him in the sky, headed back.
Yeah.
Was in Wolfsburg, had a loan stint in Eredivisie. He's a 2001 winger. I think everybody will be familiar with him on this, listening here. I mean, they just know the talent, but where he gets to the right spot where he can play, so what do you have to say about Uli?
Yeah, Uli it's heartbreaking what's happening. So he's a good story of if you're a youth player, I wouldn't go to Wolfsburg. But I mean, when he came to Wolfsburg U19s, he was their noticeable best player. He scored like 10 goals in 11 games, had a bunch of assists too. Yeah. And not just goals, like bangers. Yeah. Like edge of the box, 30 yards out, cracking them in, just a complete different level. He was doing so good that people were saying he should be called up to the men's team. Like, if you're that good doing that, that's a big testament. Goes up to the Wolfsburg U23 team. Again, like, just best player out there. Then it's time to step up to the Wolfsburg first team, and they're not playing him. I'm pretty sure it comes down to physicality, because Uli's a little guy. He's strong, but he's not big. So, like, he should be playing at that level. He just should be. He's so good. The other issue with Uli right now is he hasn't quite learned when to release the ball. He gets that ball and thinks, I want to attack my defender every time. Sometimes it's not the right decision to make it there. He still has to learn those moments. Like in the U20 World Cup when he played against France, even though he was creating chances, he was trying to go 1v3 against people on the ball. And it's like, don't do that. And then you lose it. So he still has to learn those. And then Uli went on loan to Heerenveen, got a couple minutes, didn't do too much at first, went to a USA camp, came back and was just pretty much shut out. And yeah, it's just bad news bears for him.
Yeah.
And then he's pretty much, and the issue with him is that from what it's sounding like from rumors, it's taking a toll mentally. Because it hurts when you know you're good enough to play, but they're not calling on you, and you don't really know why. That starts to take a toll. And then just recently in the USA camp, he has an injury. He would have been in the Olympic team. With him, I'm confident that team qualifies for the Olympics. That's literally just one player that makes that difference. He's that good. When he played in our USA U20 team, CONCACAF qualifying, he scored 9 goals in 6 games. It was our leading scorer there. It was unfair. I was worried we weren't going to beat Mexico when we didn't have him on the field. Like, just as good as Alex Mendez. It's still why I personally want him as one of our top wingers, but when you don't get it done at the club, you start to slide. So the good news for him is that he's moving to Wolfsburg. He might move to Houston Dynamo. So his agent, who doesn't have the best report with MLS, might move him to an MLS club. He'd be playing under Tab Ramos, who loves him and who pretty much forced him to be on his team, even when Uli wasn't 100%. That would be awesome for him if he could get minutes there. Plain and simple, Houston's team is just bad this year, so he can get minutes. So if he does, I think we see a resurgence. I think people finally see why this kid has a hype train. And so, next up.
Ready for number 15.
Yep.
Brian Reynolds, a right back, another FC Dallas product. He's at Roma right now. He's a 2001. Where does he fit in our senior men pool as well?
Right now, he would be my 4th choice. And the reason for that is technical. So Brian is another extremely athletic player. He's 6'3", and he glides up and down the field like a college football wide receiver does. In tight spaces, he's not that good. And honestly, he never has been. Like, if you put a player on him really close to him, tight pressure, 2 players on him, he's coughing up the ball. He got away with it at MLS level, which wasn't that hard of pressure. Italy, on the other hand, is very defensively sound. It's a league that's always been renowned for good defense. Taking him a little bit offensively to really show why they went and got him. Defensively, he also has a lot to work on. His positioning in particular it leaves room to be desired. But Brian's ceiling is so high, and the rate he's improving has been so good that he has to be high in this list. A year ago, there wasn't almost anyone who rated him. And then he finally broke out a right back. And then the Athletic was like, okay, that's why Dallas sent him a couple years ago. And then they sold him, but he's 20. He's going to turn 21 this year. You have to start showing that technical side to your game. It has to come at some point. He's a really good crosser of the ball. Dribbling, not so much. Just normal passing, again, not so much. Defensively, in his positioning, things like that, he's a little Yedlin-ish, we'll say. Leaves room to be desired. He has to start improving. But just off of his athletic potential and his ability to go forward, he's high up this list. And he's going to have a good career because of it. So, yeah.
Ready for 14, Conrad De La Fuente, a winger from Barcelona's B squad. He's a 2001 as well.
Yeah. So Conrad's a good player. Everyone who wants to hand him a USA call because he's made the bench at FC Barcelona needs to chill. But he's pretty technically sound. His IQ is good because he's from La Masia. He's not quite as athletic as people seem to think he is. He's not as fast. He doesn't blow by players. That's why in 1v1 duels at the senior national team level and at the U20 youth national team level, he wasn't burning players. He wasn't winning 1v1 duels, things like that. Barca B level, which is like I believe it's the third tier of Spain. Like, he's getting fine, but that's not a very high level. Now, he's not going to make the FC Barcelona first team long term. He needs to be sold. We've even said they're going to be shopping him out this window. He needs to find a club who uses wingers like him, or he's going to plummet fast.
Do you think he should be in Spain?
I think so, because it fits his game a little bit better. And he has the Euro passport, so he can move to Spain without adding in another non-EU player to their roster rules, which is why we don't see many Americans in Spain. But people need to chill on the, oh my gosh, he made Barca first team, because there's a huge difference between being a Barcelona first team player and being a first team prospect. Because players make the first team as a prospect, but at being a player who contributes is completely different. That's why there's a huge gap between him and Serginho Dest.
I love his sauce, man. He's confident. I like watching him with the ball.
The issue with De La Fuente too is that he's a little bit of a highlight tape player. He's saucy and he makes people go, wow, okay, this kid can play. But when you open it up to a 90-minute game, you really see him. He's not as involved as he should be. He doesn't contribute defensively like he should. He needs to improve there. That's why he's not getting minutes in the Barcelona first team. If he could do those, he might. Leo Messi gets hurt, Ansu Fati gets hurt. He'd be the next guy up to potentially get some minutes. Like, he has to, you need the full product out of him to get there. He hasn't quite brought that level yet. And with the men's national team, he's been, well, bad. So we hope to see him be better there.
Yeah. Number 13 is a player that I need to know more about. I'm not too familiar with him. Hassan Ayari. Is that attacking 2002, Sheffield United? Yeah,
the best player in the Sheffield United U18s, U23s. So Hassan Ayari, a thing to note about him is he is provisionally cap tied to Tunisia.
Okay.
He played for them.
Somewhere else,
Yeah, he played for them in the African U20 championship a couple months ago, which did provisionally cap tie him. But he's a number 10, and in overall just like skill, athletic, IQ combo, he's pretty unmatched by what we have. We don't have many with that complete set. And he's making assists that are mind-blowing. He's scoring goals that are mind-blowing. He's lethal on set pieces. I would send him a briefcase full of money to get him to play for the USA youth teams.
Really?
Like, every single game for the Sheffield United teams, he's having some type of effect on the score sheet. It's not a question of if he scores, it's a question of when he scores or when he assists. And to do that in England's youth levels is really promising to see. So I don't.
And are they going to be? They're going to be relegated, I'm pretty sure. So is there?
Yeah. So there's a chance he gets that first team breakthrough.
Okay.
He's. When you look for like your extremely technical players, that's one of those. And he pops off the screen because he's so good. So. Next up to our biggest jumper in the list, Mr. Gianluca Buzio. So Buzio a year ago was playing as a 10/winger and pretty much having no involvement in the game, touching it maybe 3 to 4 times a half, coming off the game looking visibly frustrated and pretty much when you expect a kid that has his level of high regard and his level of hype behind him to actually be playing well, he really wasn't. It was consistent game to game that he was pretty much just picking up the scraps out there. Like 3 of his first 4 goals in the MLS came from shockingly bad defense. Like there was one that the goalie and the center back literally ran into each other, fell over, and he just happened to be running onto the ball and put it in. And it was actually Cincy's first season where they won like 6 games. And that was when he scored that. And it was just stuff like that he originally got, that score sheet stuff that people referenced a lot. He just plain and simple wasn't getting it done. So flash forward to now, or a little over a year ago, Peter Vermes moved him back to a 6. Looked at it and said, your qualities are your IQ in the build-up and your ability to drive a ball and strike it accurately from 50 to 60 yards to wherever you want. So he can be a threat from goal from distance. He can distribute the field. He can run that game, and he broke out because of it. Every game starter for SKC, one of their best players, finally looking like a player who merited all that hype that he had. So then it came. Now this season goes and gets the number 10, and he's been doing pretty good so far. I believe he has a goal and assist right now in 2 games. So he's finally getting it done as an attacker, has the confidence behind him, and is getting results that a player of his prospect level should see, which is really good to see. So there were numerous multi-million-dollar transfer inquiries over the winter window that SKC rejected from him. So this is his last season in MLS before he goes for probably $10 million somewhere. And I don't like him as a number 10. But as a central midfielder, a number 8, this is a kid who could really go places. He could push Weston and Munoz for a spot in the 11 long term.
Wow.
Like, super high potential. But I don't like seeing him used as a 10 or as a striker, which he was in the first game, which blew my mind. So, moving on to now we're at number 11, almost the top 10.
Yeah. Ricardo Pepi, striker, FC Dallas, 2003. He had a goal over the weekend as well.
Yes, he did. So the the best guaranteed American striker that we have. There's 2 other dual names above him, but the best purely American. Ricardo Pepi is like 6'2". He's lanky, needs to bulk up right now. In regards to goal scoring, the best pure goal scorer we have. Whether it's a rebound, whether he's cracking it in himself, whether it's a free kick, things like that, this kid finds the net. His ability to just put the ball in the back of the net's really unrivaled, and it's not like a Giassi Zardes, like in the box type. He could score goals from like 25 yards out and just pile drive the ball into the back of the net. He had a pretty bad U17 World Cup where he didn't get much service, and then the first game back from North Texas has a free kick from 25 yards out, and he curls it into the upper right 90 far post. And it's just like, now we remember why this kid's so highly rated. In the DA, he scored something like 19 goals in 7 games before they moved him up to USL League One, where his first game he scored a hat trick. And it's just, if he's on his game outside of Josh Sargent and Daryl DK, there's no one challenging them outside of this kid for that spot, unless we get the 2 dual mats above. He's a lock for the 2003s as a starter. And this kid, I can't believe he wasn't sold to Europe. Probably will be if FC Dallas finally stop playing 30-year-olds above him, doing what they do best.
Number 10 is definitely headed to Europe. Yep. We're cracking the top 10. Jogo, got to see him live last night. He has made leaps and bounds from last season. Silky on the ball. Looks really, really good. What do you think, David?
Yeah, so Jonathan Gomez. I've loved this kid's game for a very long time. He's always been our either top or second best left back prospect. With Kobe Hernandez converting to a 6, he is now the undisputed top left back prospect we have. Blows away Anthony Robinson too. So Jogo is fast. Jogo is now strong. As Marcus noted to me last night, the kid bulked up a lot. His IQ is there. He knows when to make defensive reads. He knows when to go forward. He knows the right time to get the ball off of his foot. His crossing is great. He can strike it from distance. In the Nike friendlies, the first goal he scored was him getting the ball with the left shoulder of the box and banging it far post, and still one of the best youth national team goals I've seen. He's just the all-around left back package. And whatever team he goes to in Europe is very fortunate to have him. Like, he's rumored to Porto. We'll see. He could go to any club in Germany. He could go to Porto. And he's going to break out. This is unless George Bello or Kobe comes back to left back and really excel, Jonathan Gomez is our starter for 2026. And it's not a question of if he's going to take that spot, it's a question of when he takes it. He's that good.
I agree. He looks good all around.
Yeah.
And here's your guy, number 9, Moses Nyman.
Moses Nyman.
DC 2003.
Dude, I love this kid's game. So Moses, as in the technical, and mental sides of the game, are as high as you can get. Now, why he's not higher is because he's like 5'5" to 5'6" and 115 pounds. Tiny kid. Now, with that, he's still not getting hit off the ball, and he's still making defensive plays. So he'll either be a central midfielder or he'll be a number 10. One of the two. But when you have a kid with this level IQ, this level technical ability, and just his mentality, if DC United finally actually give him the playing time he should be getting, he's going to make the waves like Caden Clark does, like Paxton Pomacall did the year he made the MLS All-Star team. Like, this is one who's going to go somewhere in Europe, and he's going to excel at it, and he's going to be pushing for men's national team spots. He's pretty much an American N'Golo Kante with a little more technical prowess in the final third.
I think if he had been at the right club in MLS, we would already hear it, and knocking on the door.
We would. Like, even when people like Griffin Yao and Brian Kyle were getting youth national team calls and Moses wasn't, he's also not an American citizen yet, so that's why. Yeah. Like, they were still hiking this kid up significantly more. Like, he's been on the youth national team radar for a long time, and he's not fallen off from that high radar. So he's just...
And number 8's another one.
Yeah,
he's been high on a lot of radars for a long time. Another dual net, Malik Tillman, 2000.
Yeah.
He's over at Bayern. Tell us more about him.
So there's always a little saying that the younger brother is better. And for Malik Tillman, this applies. So he came onto the USA radar because his older brother, Timothy Tillman, made it to Bayern Munich. And like any American who goes to a super club, you immediately have people hype him up. So Tim played well, is now in, I believe, the second Bundesliga or the Free Liga, one of the two. Malik, however, now he's recovering from an injury, might have finally recovered. He was pushing for Bayern first team minutes, just like Chris Richards, and he was doing it 2 years younger than Richards. He's a center. He plays everywhere. Like, he's played at winger, he's played as striker, things like that. Most of his games, he's played 20-plus games for Bayern 2 at center midfield. He drives with the ball well. He's extremely creative in the attack. He's good defensively. He's a rock. For the German 2002s, he's a guaranteed starter for that age group for them. He's the full package of a center mid. Like, his IQ's there. If Bayern don't play him, he's going to go to some other Bundesliga team and do just as well. Like, he's a guarantee for those clubs. He just needs to stay healthy. He's one of those. He's been hurt on and off.
Yeah, we have a bunch of those, I feel like.
A lot of countries do. A lot of countries have those, but like especially the big Europe ones. And now our overall talent's starting to get up to that top 10, the top 12 overall. Yeah. But from when you get to that point, for every one prospect we have, they have 3. They're also triple the injuries, but because they have 3 times the prospects, they can lose a couple. Like you see France, you have like 30 center backs in the national stage.
Yeah.
If one of those guys gets hurt, they're like,
It disgusts me, the guys on France that you never even, because they're so that team is so deep.
Like
ASM on Newcastle is one of them. You know, he'll never see the light of France, and he's incredible talent in the Premier.
Spain's the same way. Germany's like that. Italy, Brazil, all of those. They just have more kids coming out than we do.
Yeah.
They have the same number get injured.
Yeah.
But for every one kid we have that gets injured, we have 1 replacement. They have 3.
Well, fill me in. I don't know number 7, Alex Mighton, too well. I know the team a little bit, but I don't know him. He's a winger. Is he at Nottingham Forest, the 2002?
Yeah, he's at Nottingham Forest. He is playing in the first team in the championship. So for what people want Julianez and Conrad de la Fuente to be, with their strengths and weaknesses, combine the strengths into Alex Mighton. He's strong. He's technical. He's a workhorse. He's beating players at the playing against men, doing well, creating chances. He's getting a little bit of inconsistent minutes, but still enough that he's still a first team player. They're on the field or off the bench. And honestly, he might be the next big target the national team has from Europe. Him or Fuller and Balogun are going to be one of the 2. He's also really good friends with Yunus Musa. Like him and Yunus Musa played together in the 2018 Nike friendlies against the USA. Yunus was the captain. Alex Mighton started as the left winger. We could pry both of them from one, actually. But he's another one that if the 2002s have a camp, he's a starter for them for England. And if you start for England, imagine what you can do for America. Like just like Yunus. We see what that kid can do.
Yeah.
There's another one.
Number 6, another doing that, right? Brian Oko. Oko?
He's a quad national, so he is eligible for Switzerland, the Congo, Nigeria, and USA. I think it's Nigeria.
Yeah, it sounds right. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it is. But 4 countries. Brian Oko currently is in Red Bull Salzburg, one of the best development teams in the world. He's currently playing not in their youth academy. He's currently playing for Liefering FC or FC Liefering, which is their B League team, which is basically their USL affiliate equivalent. And he starts every game and is good every game. He's not the biggest kid. He's, again, maybe going to be 6'1" to 6'2", but the kid is built like a brick house, like jacked, thick, moves around well, distributes well, can drive with the ball. He's currently the captain of the Switzerland 2003s. So we're going to have Greg put on his shoes that he did for Yunus Musa and do this one again. And unlike Yunus, the Switzerland door is open for this kid. Like he's their best center back prospect they have. So we have to really work for it. But like this kid is so good. He's gonna make Red Bull Salzburg's first team. Sadly, we won't have Jesse Marsh there anymore. Maybe Brendan Aronson will stay at the rate he's playing. He won't, but when someone else comes in, they can recruit him. This kid has it. And another Red Bulls player up next.
Top 5. All right. We have 5 exciting players left. Caden Clark's the first one. Backing mid from 2003, New York Red Bulls.
Yeah, so our top 5 are just massive talents. Everyone from the top 10 is a huge talent, but this is really, really gets big. If you're listening to this, you pretty much know everything about Caden Clark, so you don't need to explain much. He's physically gifted. His dad is a professional trainer, so like he has the physical side down. He's not going to get hurt often. He's 2-footed. He scored bangers with his left foot, which is his weak foot. He's an attacking midfielder who has the vision, loves to pick out the fancy pass, everything. Just perfect player, perfect prospect. Just constantly gets on the score sheet in mind-blowing ways. He's going to go to Leipzig, probably break in there. He's men's national team bound. There's no other way to say it. He's probably going to be a starter for us in some sort long term. He's going to be a Champions League player, everything like that. Great talent. He's only at 5 because the other 4 above him are freaks.
Yeah.
So
number 4 is Malik Sanogo, striker
Yep.
from Union Berlin. He's a 2004.
Yep. So Malik Sanogo's a tri-national for us, Germany and Nigeria. Germany and Nigeria want him bad. He's not a citizen yet for Germany, so we still have a window to make him ours. That's why COVID came at the worst time possible. But Malik he currently leads all 2003s and 2004s in German youth levels at scoring. There is only one better than him, and that is Yusufa Mukoko, who's probably the most talented striker ever, potentially killing Mbappe, Messi level kid. So that's the only kid who beat him out. And if that's the only one in Germany and all their youth divisions, not just his, but the ones below him too, he's outproducing all of them. He's already getting in Union Berlin first team trainings. There's been rumors about him potentially getting onto the match day squad this season or potentially early next season. Like, when you look for every single, like, if you want to cycle that one kid who breaks out for the USA's in Germany early, your Pulisic, your Gio Reynas, he's the one for the 2004s. He's also a striker, which we have a lot of question marks over. And on top of striker, his second position is right wing, which we also have a lot of question marks for. Because Gio Reyna probably is better suited in the middle. Malik Sanogo can cut in on his preferred left foot. And if this kid gets the ball in the box with space, he's scoring. Even without space, he's still scoring. His dad he's such a good player. And it's hereditary too. His dad is such a good striker that he's on Union Berlin's staff as a striker coach. So It's not just this kid is gifted. This kid has the IQ for the game as well. So the only worry is Germany get him?
Yeah. Oh, number 3. Sorry.
Yeah.
He's Folarin Balogun, one of the other dual multinational player, striker from Arsenal, 2001. Lots of rumors about Berhalter recruiting him already, and some of the players helping out in that process. So
he's another. We have a lot of players we're sharing with Nigeria, most of all. It's like Nigeria and Mexico. We have a lot. Folarin was like born in America and moved back to England forever, just like Eunice. But this kid, like Malik Sanogo, just scores goals for fun. In the Arsenal U23s and U18s, he scored 37 goals in a single season, which is in England's level, which in their youth leagues are the hardest. That's stupid. Like, get out of here with that. So now he's looking to go to Germany, like all English youth players should, because that league gives them minutes. He's going to move there. He's going to get minutes. He's going to play well. He's already getting time with Arsenal's first team and scoring when he does play for them. Mostly plays in cup matches, though, sadly. But
I was like, has he made his Premier League debut yet?
I think he has maybe one appearance, but like he gets cup matches for them.
Yeah.
I think he made his EuroLeague debut, though. But like, this kid is just. It doesn't matter where he is, he scores. And so it's just the two above him. Just everyone at this point knows the two.
Sure.
It is what it is. Number 2 is Yunus Musa. What do I need to say? The dude was a starter for Valencia, still plays in the first team. The best center mid prospect we have, bigger prospect than Weston McKennie. He's a center mid. Also plays as a winger currently. But who knows how long that's going to last. As in the youth levels and things like that, he's played as a center midfielder, which is why he plays there for the USA. Drives past players. He's safe in the ball. He's smart. He's extremely athletic. He's the complete center mid package. He's going to break out and have a big career unless he gets hurt. Just don't need to say anything else. And
number Reina guy, I haven't heard of him.
Yeah. If you didn't guess number 1, you just stop talking about these players.
Why did you listen this far?
It's Gio Reyna. When you're the son of a men's national team and women's national team player, not just men's national team, the top 3 men's national team of all time, you're gonna be this good. Like, Gio probably should be a 10. He's dangerous, he's smart, he's good in the ball. There's nothing he isn't good at. He's 2-footed, can score from deep, can have a mind-blowing assist. When he's on his game, he's one of the best players of Borussia Dortmund, 18 years old. Like, he's doing better at Dortmund than Pulisic did at this age.
Yeah.
And Pulisic is pretty much Jesus reincarnated for U.S. soccer. So what's Gio going to be? Like, this is our first golden boy potential player for that award, which is the best under 21 player in Europe or in the world. Gio's the first one who legitimately has that potential. There's until Matthew Corcoran, in my opinion, in 2006, we don't have another one of these. And these don't come around for any country, which is why Gio, among all prospects, is getting compared not just by American fans, but by everyone with the best prospects of any age group worldwide.
Did you not rank 2006s on here on purpose, or is it just
I did 01s, 05s. If we put 06s on here, it's too much of an age gap or age range. So
it's tough to predict to that early what their bodies are even going to do, let alone their
Yeah, there's now keep in mind the 2006s. I thought our 03s were the most talented. The 06s are starting to put out kids like crazy. I don't know what it is. They have like 5 kids who are guaranteed top 20, even in this list. Like there's the worry for that group is there's not a lot of wingers. They have Baj and Darbo, and that's pretty much it for right now. But like their midfield's so good they could produce 2 midfields out of what they have and still be top 5 worldwide in that age group. It's stupid. So but that concludes our top 50 for
top 50 under 20 April 2021 edition. Thanks, David, for putting that together and walking us through. I know everybody's gonna be hitting Google hard on the back half of that group, and looking forward to seeing some of these guys break in the top 25 over in Europe here soon.
Yep. And then if anyone has any questions, my Twitter handle is @dcur0118. I'll try to answer them unless you deserve to be muted at this point. Please don't come out with takes that might mute you. But shoot them at me. My DMs are open too. And I know someone on here might listen to it. Don't add me to an 80-person group chat again. Whoever did that, thank you for that. But with that, thanks Marcus, thanks Matty for having me on. It's always a good time. Love talking to youth prospects because it's what I do best. And then there we go.
Appreciate it, man. We'll get the list up on chasingacup.com here soon, and this will be up on YouTube and all sorts of good stuff through Matty's network at Underdog. So
yes, I will.
Like and follow and do all that good stuff.